Hey, everybody. Well, on today's episode of the Hockey Family Podcast, we were fortunate enough to have an ex-teammate of mine, Jack Skille, seventh overall draft pick, a lot of, a long, lengthy career to draw advice from, and a great conversation. And I know that, Johan, you enjoyed one of his answers particularly.
Yeah, I thought his advice for hockey was really fun, and just kind of surrounding the idea of just your style of hockey, right? If you can have the style of your game kind of match your personality, right? Where you're, I thought he said it really well. Just find what you are as a player, you as a person and a personality, and let that flow through to your hockey game. I thought was really unique, something I really hadn't heard before. But like looking back on some other guys' careers and my own, like I think I can honestly say, like when I was doing that, were not only the best parts of my career in terms of success, but when I was having the most fun. Right, as well. Yep. So I just thought that was excellent.
Yeah, I think on multiple podcasts we circled around the same idea, but Jack put it in a really nice way, something we probably haven't heard about. And then, I really enjoyed just his touching on financial pursuits. I know we kind of went around and around, but just his idea that he's now really got a great team around him, right? And he's kind of had that team approach to his finances and everything he's doing now. I think resonates a lot with me and us. So I hope everybody enjoys today's episode, and thanks for joining us.
Another fight. From behind the play, the gloves are down. It's Orr and Strachan. And Orr landing a couple of big rights.
This is Strachan's first bout, and he has, I believe, been cut on the nose.
Down on the ice they go, as McCormick teed off on Tyson Strachan.
Jeez, you fought some heavies, man. Holy shit.
Not because I wanted to, buddy.
I know. Like, I hear Orr, and I'm like, are you nuts?
Yeah, that was. We can tell that story at some point. That was very much forced. Need David Perron right in front of me with like nobody else around. Like my first year, he's our first rounder. I'm like, anybody? No, I got to do this. Yeah, and of course he's just like, all you gotta do is drop him, Strax. He's like, if you don't want to, you don't want to. I'm like, I don't want to. He's like, you just gotta drop him. I'm like, okay.
Oh boy.
So, anyways, all right, guys. Well, welcome to the Hockey Family Podcast. As you just heard in those clips, some of those mistakes, I guess, maybe that I made along the way, a couple that broken bones, I guess, were the end result of. But kind of the idea behind this is just talking to guys like our guest today, Jack Skille, who obviously had a wonderful career, and to be able to get some advice and listen to them talk about their experience in the game. So as always, today we're joined by my D partner from college, the founder of the Hockey Wealth Group, Johan Kroll.
Yeah, really excited to have Jack Skille on the Hockey Family Podcast today. Jack came out of Wisconsin. Side note, just what an awesome team you guys had while you were there. And then went on to have a 15-year pro hockey career, over 800 games played, a lot of which was in the NHL. Came up with the Blackhawks and then spent time with Florida Panthers, the Blue Jackets, the Avalanche, the Canucks, and finished his career overseas. So, Jack, thank you for taking the time to coming on and sharing some wisdom with us today.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's an honor and a privilege. I'm happy to see Strax again. We reconnected last week. That was awesome. It's always nice to reconnect with guys, but to see him and meet you, Johan, it's nice.
Yeah. So Skills and I, spent parts of 2 years together, I think, in Florida, and it's funny how I think we all know as hockey players, you play with so many great guys along the way that you wish you'd stayed in touch with. So I don't know what the impetus was, but I saw something I think Jack posted or reached out to him. And then, the day later, we're having a conversation, catching up like old times. And Jack's now out in Park City, Utah, right?
Yep.
And started the Jack Skille Hockey Academy, which I think we need to talk about more at some point here. But and then we jump on the call, and we were all over the place. But Johan has great memories of playing against you guys in college at Lambeau. I have great memories of having my arm in a cast during that game, being out in the parking lot, walking around trying to have a beer with the Wisconsin fans. Sure, we played against each other. Well, you guys probably played against each other a long time too. Other than that, but Yogi, what do you got here?
Yeah, I mean that Lambeau game. I remember it was cold. And it was fun though. Good memory. I'm pretty sure that the Badgers might have come out on top 3-2, or maybe you had an empty netter. I think it was 4-2. But you guys went on to win the national championship that year. I was looking at when I was preparing for this podcast today. I was looking at the roster and I forgot how you guys were so deep on that team. It was incredible.
Yeah, we had a lot of guys that went on to play beyond college on that team, and Adam Burish, Joe Pavelski, Robbie Earl, Gilbert, and Brian Elliott, and and I'm missing Jake Dowell.
Even
there's several
some more
guys
depth, like Jodry,
Judry, went on to play pro as well. Andy Brandt, Ross Carlson had a little stint. Joe Pascula, Josh Engel. It was deep. It was a deep team, and it was almost a tough room to walk into as a young guy. As a true freshman. They were all alpha dogs, really good people, but they were there to work and compete every single day. So as a young guy, maybe young, naive, maybe thinking I'm better than I am at that point in time, they'd certainly had their ways of keeping me in my place. So
absolutely. Well, cool, Jack. So we always like to kind of start off, just with the topic of hockey, and just kind of, throughout your years, whether it was something, when you were young or at Wisconsin or later in your pro career, but just quite simply, what do you think was the best advice you ever received in your hockey career?
It was actually from Kovalev in Florida. Strax, were you there when Kovey was there?
Yeah, I loved him.
Yeah, I loved him. He was so awesome. So I sat next to him in the room at the practice facility, and Kevin Dineen was pretty hard on me while I was there, and still relatively young, just trying to find a way to stick in the NHL. And I just found myself getting pulled out of the lineup every now and again, and getting really frustrated with that, because as a younger player, having talks with Dino in the office, it was, what do you want? What's my role here? And he's, explaining my role. I want you to get 5 shots on net a game and 5 hits at least. And, if you have to scrap, you got to scrap, and I just remember thinking every game, just get the puck on net and finish every hit. And, there were times when I was just running around out there, kind of lost touch with who I was, my identity as a hockey player. And I remember sitting next to Kovey. Kovalev was, "Hey, how you feeling?" And I was like, "Terrible. Like, this sucks." And he's like, well, yeah, you've tried to do everything you can for a coach, and you've done it. You've visibly done it. Like, I'm watching you play. Like, you're plus player, or you're close. Tough in Florida to be a plus player, by the way. But at that point in time, now it's different. But yeah, he just said, you got to stick to your identity. Who is Jack Skille as a hockey player? You were drafted 7th overall for a reason. You're here for a reason. So you certainly play a certain brand of hockey, and that's yours. That's yours. Nobody can take that from you. But what you're doing right now is you're trying to change your game for a coach. And he said, and how does that feel to be in the stands or in the press box after doing everything the coach asks you to do? I said, it's tough. This sucks, right? So he said, my advice to you is just play your brand of hockey, whatever that is. Play your brand, and certainly you want to fit into the team system, but that's the puzzle. That's the puzzle you got to figure out. Like, where does your identity fit into that team system, to your role? And at the end of the day, Jack, he said, if you play your brand of hockey and you still end up in the press box, that hot dog tastes a little bit better because you did it your own way. Right. So for me, that was enlightening. It made me realize that he's right. If you look at all the guys currently in the league, or the guys that used to play, now retired, they all brought something to the game. Jonathan Taves on my podcast, our first episode, said, every player plays to his personality. And I agree with that. If they are successful, they're certainly playing to their personality. And I think coaches do the same thing. And that advice just really stuck with me. He finished with you're going to get an entangled mess, because every single time a new coach comes in, you're going to have to change your game for him, and you're going to be lost. Yeah. And the player will always outlast the coach. And he's right. I played for, I don't know, I can't even count, probably 20 different coaches in my pro career. Strax, I don't know how many coaches you played for, like since probably high school. Lots. Yep. So you gotta play to your identity. You got to play to your personality, and just let the chips fall where they may any given night.
I like that a lot. Just when you started that whole story and talking about it, and I mean, I could picture Dino having those meetings with you, but I mean, it just doesn't fit with you, right? Whereas the opposite was probably true. It was probably why I fit in there with Dino, right? Because he liked that I'd go out and hit and fight a little bit, right? Like, but I mean, for you, that's taking the skill out of your game, and that's not what you want to do. And it made me think back to a few of the podcasts we've already had, right? We keep talking about some of the us as role guys, like the regrets we've had looking back on our careers, and how we were so nervous to make a mistake that we didn't play our game, or take some of those chances. I know we've talked about that a lot.
Yeah, I've never heard it put the way Jack just did, which I really like. Play to your personality. I think that is just so true. Everyone's just so unique in their own ways. Yeah, even outside of hockey, and yeah, like I love that, Jack. To play to your personality.
Well, look at it. It's the proof's in the pudding. I mean, if you look at what Austin Matthews has done, right? Look at Patrick Kane did. There's not one single coach that ever changed Patrick Kane's core of who he was as a player. And then he went, and in turn he changed the game. Right? You got McKinnon that comes in as a super skilled, fast power forward that's electric, and every time he's on the ice. And he played his style, and there's not going to be any single coach, there hasn't been, and there won't be, that changes Nathan McKinnon. McDavid, the same thing. And we're talking about the studs. Look, what about Brad Marchand, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that guy found a way to make his role visible every single night and get under the skin of everybody. And that's what he loves. I don't know Brad, but I'm assuming in the room he's the guy that's going to kind of stick the dagger in every now and again and twist it. Right. So
yeah, I think
and you love having guys
every night. Yeah. And then you mentioned talking about that advice. You get that from Kovalev and Taves. It's probably two guys worth listening to. But
yeah, totally.
Makes me smile just to think of Kobe, like him sitting at practice, just the crazy stuff he used to do with the puck.
Oh my God. I don't know if you saw this, but I went out before practice one time. Kovalev was on one knee, one end of the ice down by the hash. I think he was like he had a stack of pucks next to him, but he was kind of stretching. I don't know. He just did this weird practice routine. He'd kind of go out there, wheel around, shoot some pucks, and then, get down to his knees and stretch, right? And then he had this stack of pucks, and I came out there and he waves me over. He goes, come over here. So I sit, he gets on one knee and he, with one hand on his top hand, he goes, watch this. And he sauces it down the ice and it lands in the net. He goes, that's not what I'm trying to do. And he grabs another puck and he sauces it even higher and it poof, like on the top of the net. He goes, that's better. And I'm like, his forearms were like the size of my legs. Like it was just insane. And his stick was probably like, it was the shortest stick I've ever seen, but it was just a banana curve. And I remember looking at that going, this is a different level. I don't even deserve to sit next to you right now. So yeah, that's how special he was.
He did that every day. I always think about that. Yeah, his one hand. But I mean, that's somebody that if you look back on the NHL, like the history of the NHL, like might have the best hands, right? Out of anybody. But yeah, just a special guy, but also saw the game in such a special way, right? Like he'd be the perfect guy to give you that advice to never change for somebody else. And it's very true. I mean, you got to find your way to fit in, right? To get in the lineup, but then you got to be able to play your game if you're going to have, a long career, right?
Yeah, and I'm finding that more and more. I know you guys are probably finding this more and more in the business world. It's the same thing. Life, it's the same thing. Like for my wife, she's getting into real estate out here, which is what a place to be in the real estate game, right? But she's nervous. She's nervous about certain things. I said, hey, you're great with relationships. People love you. You just got to figure out, like initially, what's the void? What's the void in the company you just got latched on? Like, what's the void? What are people not willing to do? And then get in there. Go do it. Go do it with enthusiasm. Fill that void for them, and then climb the ladder from there. And but hang on to who you are in that process. So, certainly, like what we're talking, there's role players. Like you need to be a role player, but you need to do it your way, and you got to put your stamp on it. So, that's the best life advice, but not hockey advice, but life advice I've ever received.
Yeah. That's awesome, Jack. Transitioning just a touch, for a lot of young guys coming in the league. One thing we see, and I mean, you see stories as well, but making mistakes financially, right? And we see it in the office, and really one of the reasons we wanted to start this podcast as well. Trying to share some wisdom and lessons learned from guys that have lived through. Experience, opportunities for the better or worse in terms of financial decisions. So, question number 2 is just, what's the best advice you ever received in terms of financial pursuits over the years?
Well, it's funny because I tell my family this and really close friends. It's I wasn't as smart as I would have liked to, but I was still smart. I'm smart enough, and I'm okay. But, looking back, you're young, you're getting these big paychecks, and, you don't really have a real direction. You're almost scared to ask in a way. It's kind of a stigma. You don't want to be labeled as a dummy. And by asking that question for whatever reason, you're a dummy. That's obviously not true. But, I got to Florida, and that was my second full season with the NHL. So in the minors, as Strax knows, like you're kind of breaking even on the year. You're just trying to get those call ups, and you're just trying to, scrape by. Then you get, those NHL paychecks, and it's like, well, now what? Like, what do I do with this? Right. So, I bought a couple cars, and along the way, like, not never two at the same time, but, I bought a nice watch. There was like, there's these things like, I had buddies that were like, I want a red Ferrari. That's my gift to myself. Right. And they got it, and they did it, and they were making millions of dollars on their contracts. So they could do that. Right. For me, I was more of a league minimum guy. So for me, it was like a Breitling watch. That was like my thing. It was like, that's my gift to myself that I've made it. So I still have it to this day. I love it. It's my kid loves it. It's just, it was whatever. But I remember buying that. I just bought leased out a new car. I just bought a watch, and I think certainly Brian Campbell saw it. And it was like, hey, like, okay, fine, but what are you doing? Right. And I remember kind of thinking like, he's right. But I don't really know what to do. And, Jovanovski goes, hey, after practice, he goes, you want to come out on my yacht? And I'm like, sure. Right. And I'm like, who's going? He goes, just you and me. So I'm like, all right. He's the captain of the team. Right. So I go on his yacht. We're in Boca Raton. We're in the little, canal there or whatever. And we're having a couple Coronas. Nice day in Florida. And he goes, what? So who's managing your money? And I was just kind of like caught off guard by it. And I said, well, I got a guy back in Wisconsin. He's helping me out. And he goes, okay, well, do you mind if I give you some advice? And I said, sure. He goes, well, you got to remember this, Jack. Like any good financial advisor will tell you, as a pro athlete, you're going to make most of your money now, right? When you're done, you're going to have to hit the reset button, right? And it's you're the opposite of what everybody else is. Everybody else is going to get into the game, the workforce. They're gonna make more money as they grow, and we're making that like upfront. So you have to store it away, and you gotta treat your finances like when you're leaving, you have nothing. When you leave, you have nothing, right? You're going to maybe have that $40,000-$50,000 salary again if you get into the workforce. And that's not going to be enough to live on if you spend everything. So think of it like he said, a big pie. He did the pie chart with me just in the conversation. He said, you got a pie. He goes, 2/3 of it goes into, low risk, think of it like a retirement fund. 2/3 of it is just retirement fund, and you're not touching it, and it's harder to pull out, but it's sitting there, and it's making a small interest every single year. And then the other third of it, of your pie, should be split up, diversified between real estate, stocks, and cash, right, or whatever the higher risk investments. And I remember, like, I'm a visual guy, so for me to be able to get that visual was cool. So I literally left that yacht that day just going, I need to get my act together, right? So I called a buddy of mine who's my current financial advisor, and I trust him with my life, and just a really good person. And he was just getting into the game too. And I said, this is what I got from a teammate. This is what I think I want to do with my money. Can you help me? And he said, absolutely. That's sound advice. I really like it. Let's get your funds. Let's get this rolling. Right. So we got it dialed in, and then, just went from there. So, just started stocking stuff away every single year, a certain percentage of my contract, had some money to play with, but we were ultra conservative with what I was playing with now, more aggressive with what I was storing away. So, looking back, I'm more comfortable in retirement because of that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Nice to have a teammate like Joe to pull you aside and do that. Nice setting to do it on his yacht.
Well, mind you, he had a 10,000 square foot house. During that conversation, the guy's got a 10,000 square foot house in Boca Raton. He's building a 13,000 square foot house, and we're on a 90-foot yacht. So You're like, all right, this is your play money. Wow, you've made quite a bit this year in your career. This is amazing. You're the guy to listen to. So,
but I remember Joe. I mean, obviously a guy that made a lot, but the first guy to tell you that he got really lucky, like just timing wise of his career too. Like everywhere he went from Vancouver, like I remember him just kind of listing off like, his whole career and just like real estate markets. He's like, I went here, I bought a house, I get traded here or signed here. I sold that for, 20 times what I paid for it, right? Like, and he's like, I look back at my career earnings of a lot, whatever it is, but he's like, I also got very fortunate, kind of got through those things. But obviously he's right. You want to have you want to enjoy that. You should be able to treat yourself, but you got to, be conscious of what you're doing for the long term. Because, we all did that. We came out of college and we were making that kind of money, and you look at your buddies who are, just starting their careers and really grinding their tails off. And then by the end of our careers, those guys are, out in the real world with 10 years.
My dad was a teacher. He was a physical education teacher and an athletic director, right? And my mom was, I think she was like an administrative assistant at that point. I mean, we were blue collar. I had 97. I remember this. I'll never forget. I had 97 cents at one point to my name, my freshman year of college. Yeah. And like in my checking account, I had 97 cents. Mom, Dad, can you give me a little boost here? I need to get some food. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, like, I'm broke. Like I'm broke. Like this is, I better, hockey better pan out here. Cause I'm not really enjoying the school side of it. So yeah. And then you get those big paychecks, and who you're going to go to, like, you're going to go to your parents. Right. So like, hey Dad, like, what do I do? Jack, I have no idea. You just made half of my salary in one paycheck. I don't know what to do. I'll do my best to like line you up with the guy. That's how it started.
Yeah.
So,
gosh, I think another big takeaway, and what a blessing, Jack, that you had a teammate that kind of pointed you in the right direction. Like from what we hear, Strax and I, we're not in locker rooms anymore, but what we hear from guys, it's more like half of that pie, half your allocation, put in crypto, this, speculative, that, like, it's just like that shift in mindset where it's sure guys might not be spending it on 3 or 4 cars, but one of our concerns is, on that asset allocation side, guys not being prudent with, maybe to your point, like maybe a more boring, a more conservative, strategy. So I know Strax has some good stories on that kind of later in his career.
Well, I mean, and you don't want your financial security and future to depend on which one of those older teammates you happen to have, right, early on in your career. Because, I mean, I can think back very plainly to my second year pro when I made it into the league, and I had bought, like a 2015 Ford Explorer for $12,000. And that's what I was driving to the rink every day. And I had an older guy that I'll just leave nameless right now, like our, kind of old guy in our Jovo of the room. He pulled me aside and he's like, Strax, you're in the NHL. You need to drive something better. Like he's like, you need to go spend money. Like, so very different. Jovo obviously had a fantastic career, I think, on both sides of it, financially done very well. And that's great that he pulled you aside. But yeah, you don't want to be trusting in that guy in the locker room beside you, that he's given you the most sound advice. And I've heard definitely some of the worst advice from guys sitting beside me.
For sure. We've all played with those guys, Strax.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the league has such a, that watch, I mean, how many guys have 10 of those watches, 20 of the cars, there's definitely a culture behind that, right? There's a keeping up with the Joneses aspect to it that, it's just a very hard thing to navigate. And that's something that every guy's going to have to go through on their own thing. But like you said, when you're playing keeping up with the Joneses and you happen to be a league minimum guy, which is a ton of money, but you're playing next to the guy that's making 10 million that year or making, 100 or 200 million career earnings, like keeping up with the Joneses is tough, right? So you need to find, just like you talked about with your career, find your personality, find what works. You need to have an individual understanding of where you stand in that as well.
Yeah, I think also it helps too, like, the reason why, I love what my finance team does is, even today, I just lean on any major financial decision I'll make. I make sure they clear it. They always try to remind me, like, we work for you, Jack. You don't work for us, right? But it's okay to have that approach. Like, I want to be sensitive to the decisions we make. I mean, right now we're renovating our house out here in Park City. Like, you can imagine a place like Park City, the cost to renovate a home. It's a very expensive place to live as is, but with all the renovations going around town, everything's saturated. The contractors are in control. Well, we have a good contractor, and, every step of the way, my finance team's been there with every decision. And, how are we going to, what are we pulling from? How are we generating that cash to make this happen? And within those processes, I'm learning from them. They're teaching me. Right. So, I like learning. I like learning now by asking questions. I was a little bit more timid earlier in my life to ask questions. There's that layer of that conscious, subconscious saying to yourself that if I ask a question, that means I'm admitting to myself that I don't know the answer. Right. And that's, as a young, emotionally immature person, that's not easy to cope with. So you just resort to pretending you know the answer, not asking a question. Right. So I think there's a ton of value in admitting to yourself that you don't know, what you don't know, and have the humility of admitting it by asking questions, and get yourself with either mentors or, I have hockey mentors. I got, biomechanic, movement specialists that I talk to about, off ice movement, things like that. But I also have a mentor in the finance world. So, and he's actually turned into a finance mentor, but he's also a business mentor in a way. So, he helps explain certain things. This guy wants to do commercial real estate with you, right? Let's unpack that a little bit. Let's talk about what you're facing, right? What's the risk, and what's the process if you do go into business with this guy? Like, what are we looking out for? And we haven't even gotten to the business deal side of it, but I'll learn from that angle too. Like, what does a business deal look like, and what does it look like on paper, and how is it executed over time? So learning all of those things is hugely beneficial. But it starts with, you got to ask questions, right? You got to be willing to admit to yourself you don't know all the answers. So
that's excellent.
Your dad was a school teacher, Jack. There are no dumb questions. You should have known that.
I know.
Both my parents are school teachers. So, and my brother's a school teacher, so I'm surrounded by.
Oh man, a huge tribute to school teachers, what they have to deal with every single day. Holy smokes. Yeah, it's changing, as we all know. So
good. So, I know you kind of touched on it when we started, Jack. Just typically the third question we ask is best advice for life in general, and you kind of tied it in with a great answer to hockey, and kind of bringing up your wife and her pursuits in the real estate game out there in Park City. But just any kind of additional thoughts in terms of, or if you even just the opportunity to elaborate a little bit more, just life in general, right? We all have this finite time on Earth here, and there's all kinds of things out there, and just best advice for life in general for the young guys out there.
That's a very fluid thing for me. I try to learn from everything, and that sounds cliche, but it's true. Like to a fault sometimes, where I get a little bit hard on myself in certain things. Like I want to go at myself and say, what is that about me, right? And learn from that. Or I just had a great conversation with so and so. Like I'm riding in the car. Like what did I learn from that conversation, right? It just a very gentle. I have to reel myself back in a very gentle growth mindset. Like I see it all over Instagram. Like be a growth. Attack the day. And you gotta have your morning routine. You gotta, I've tried all that stuff in my transition, and it's been downright exhausting at times, right? Because it's, again, not my own. I gotta find my own path. But The best life advice relationally that I got was from my other mentor, Steve Merlin. He trained me in the off seasons later in my career, but he basically said, Jack, when you're trying to be reasonable with an unreasonable person, there's no longer a problem. Just walk away. Right. And I carry that with me every single day because that's a relational thing. Right. And he also, in addition to that, he said, I'm only going to apologize to you once. Right. So it's just firm. You can't control how people are going to react. So stop trying. If they're reacting poorly to you, if you're trying to be reasonable, you're handling the situation with emotional maturity, and you're just trying to talk to this person, and whatever your form of reasonability is, everybody knows the lines, right? When they get overly passionate, maybe they start name calling or they start raising their voice. Well, not you're entering in the you're unreasonable, right? That's not reasonable behavior. So if you're reasonable with somebody and they're reacting poorly to that, there's nothing you can do. Just, find an exit strategy, just walk away from it and keep, and also the layers of that. It's like the layers of an onion. It's like, and when I, if I get a battle with my wife, I've told her, like, I'm going to apologize to you. I'm going to be sincere about it. If you cannot accept my apology, hey, like, I can't control that. Right. So, the other part of that is just making sure that, you keep your side of the bridge intact. Like, don't burn the bridge. So you can walk away without burning the bridge. Now, if you walk away burning the bridge and in spite of the situation, now you're unreasonable, right? So I strongly believe that, everybody deserves your side of the bridge to be there. Whether they meet you there halfway or not, and they keep their bridge intact or rebuild their bridge to meet you halfway, that's not in your control. So that's something that I've learned in life, running a business, being married, being a father now, a dad. Try reasoning with a 3-year-old, right? So it's it's definitely very sound life advice relationally.
I love that.
Yeah.
And yeah, keeping your side of the bridge intact. That's a great way to think of it.
Yeah. And on top of it too,
this is really good stuff, Jack. Really, really good
well,
stuff.
Yeah. I'm a thinker. I think every day.
I can tell.
But, there's been times when I've wanted to roast my side of the bridge, and, there are current situations. Again, it's very fluid, right? So there's current situations with buddies that maybe you feel betrayed by something they did, or a lack of something, a lack of action, because that's a decision on their end too, right? So, you want to burn it. Sometimes you're sitting in the same room as them and you feeling those things. You want to kick them right upside the head, but you can't. So, you could roast the bridge, but I usually tend to keep my side of the bridge open. And then once the time's a perfect healer. So like once it's like long enough time, it airs out long enough, whether it's 24 hours, a week, a month, 6 months, whatever it is, extend an olive branch to that person. If it's really bugging you at that point, extend an olive branch, whether they take it or not. Again, that's not within your control, but you walk away. But you got to be okay with rejection too, right? Yeah. So you got to be okay with like being rejected. They're not ready to talk to you. And it doesn't have anything to do with you at that point. So, just hanging on to your power. I think that advice has helped me understand my own personal power and how to not, how to guard it, how to not give that up to other people, every single day. So.
Yeah, that's important. Jack. Have you read, much on like the Stoics or the Stoicism?
Yeah.
That seems to me like that's where that idea really fits in really well.
Yeah. I got that advice and then I picked up the Daily Stoic and I started seeing some overlap. So, how I live my life is like, if I'm hearing the same message in different ways, different transparencies, or a different frequency. Sorry. I should probably listen, but if it's a one and done, someone says something, I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. We'll be patient with it and see if another buddy says something similar. Again, just learning from every conversation, every interaction. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, that's great.
Oh, that's great.
Like it.
Yeah, and just kind of to close to wrap things up. I know you got some exciting things going on your end. Do you want to talk about the hockey camp and just some other things you're up to today?
Yeah, sure. So I was living out here before. About 4.5 years ago, I moved out here. Took a hiatus from the game. At that point in time, I thought I was retired. I had a really tough season in Geneva, Switzerland, on a personal level, and just some stuff going on in my personal life that was distracting. And I ran into a coach and GM that he had his ways of doing things that it didn't really help me much. It basically discouraged me a lot in a lot of ways. Gave up my power in a lot of ways, and just hated the game. So came back. I was in my head retired. Hit the transition at that point. Started doing some camps and clinics out here. Decided halfway through that first year, I was coaching a 12U team, and woke up one day after a dream of, I think, playing back in Vancouver. And I was just like, man, I want to play again. My wife goes, you got to do it. Right. And I was shocked. I thought I was going to scare her after that. She was pregnant at the time. We were getting ready to, build our nest and, help Leroy, my son, get into the world. And, I had a coach here, local coach, Kurt Kleinendorf. He lives here, splits his time between Minnesota and here. He was sitting at my kitchen table, actually, out here in Park City. And he said, trying to sign me to 2 years. This is year one, this is year two. And I looked at him, I said, hey, Kurt, like, out of respect for the game, you and the team, like, I can't commit to a month of hockey, let alone 2 years. Right. So he goes, well, if your mind changes, let me know. So about halfway through the year, I had that dream, and I was like, Mike Madonna was in town, got to meet him and got to know him a little bit, and saw him at the rink. So, again, heard it from my wife, you got to go. Okay, well, let's be rational about this. Let's take it with a grain of salt. It was just a dream. Let's not be, base a major life decision on a dream. So I walk into the rink and I said, hey, Mike, I go, did you ever feel when you retired that you wanted to still play? Like, did you ever feel that way? He goes, absolutely not. And he goes, why? And he kind of like lights up and he goes, you want to play? And I go, yeah, I think I want to play. He goes, you got to go. And I was like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? Right. So I reach out to Kurt. He lets me down easy. A month later, my kid comes into the world. He's 2 weeks old. About a month and a half later, I'm in Jackson Hole at a Pee Wee tournament. And my co-coach was actually Kurt's daughter, Katie Kleinendorf. And she goes, hey, my dad wants to talk to you. So, I jump on the phone with him. He goes, you got 48 hours to decide. I got $5,000 a month for you. He goes, I know it's not great. See you, buddy. Go off to school, okay?
But what's that?
It's a microphone, okay? Go have fun, okay? Sorry, guys. So,
Leroy.
Yeah, little Leroy, going to nature school. But anyways, $5,000 a month. I know it's not what you're looking for, but it's you're going to come out here, help us make a playoff push. I need a leader in the room to help us with our lead scorer. He's beating up on himself pretty good. You either come out here and you love the game, we extend you, or you come out here, you hate the game, you go back, right? So I said, it's a win-win for me. Wife says she boots me out the door. Like we got a two week old, like a football, and she sends me a long way. So fast track, I extend 2 years, COVID hits. We made it in the playoffs. I think we had 17-1 when I got there in Nuremberg. It was just, I scored 7 goals in my first, I think 6 games. I maybe suited up like a couple times during that year, but I was really coaching the whole time. So guys were asking me at the faceoff, where have you been? Well, I was a 12U coach. Shut up. Like they couldn't believe it. Right. So, it was fun because it was the first time in my life. We talked about it earlier in the beginning. Like I was first time in probably, 13 years or 12 years at that point where I was being me, just playing my style again. Right. And it was working. Right. I was loose, just playing, reading the game. But, retired after playing in playing for Red Bull in Salzburg for Matty McIlvain, your old teammate, and decided, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm a coach. I'm going to do all this stuff. I got hooked in as a skills director, and then asked to be a director of hockey in Wisconsin at VSA. Moved my family across country, did that. Was working too many hours, spending more time with other people's kids than my own. Didn't like it, didn't leave the mountains for that. So let's go back. We did really well with the development program in Wisconsin. I had a buddy in town before I left, telling me for years to just build this certain thing. Well, the VSA job, I had to. I was forced to. I was under salary now. I had to do it. So I did it, and I think I gained a lot of confidence and realized that I have more than enough competence to do this sort of development program, but I lacked in confidence leading up to that point. So jumped without a parachute, went back to Park City and said, I'm going to do my own thing. So we built the academy here. And all it is it's an off-season model. It's a spring program, 6-week spring program, and a 4-week summer development program. In the 6 weeks, kids get 12 hours of on-ice practice and scrimmage, and they're going to get 2 tournaments this next year, right? And the reason why it's overly saturated in the Midwest, all these spring programs, but in Utah it isn't. Nobody's ever really done this stuff before, right? The game's behind, right? So I just looked at it as, I want to run a business, but I also want to be I want to leave my mark on Utah and help grow the game. And the summer development program's 32 hours of training, 32 hours of training within that month. A very good progressive model that, we're consistent with our development. We're not just like, a one and done private lesson and then go 2 weeks goes by and then, do a private lesson with a different coach. No, you're with the same coaching staff for that 32 hours of training. And we're teaching the kids. We're teaching them how to fish, right? We're not going and catching a fish for them. Like that's what I believe private lessons do. These kids need to be in small groups, and they need to learn how to figure out their own personalities and their identities to fit into the game. And that's easier done in a group setting. And then start adding some fun features. Like I said, we're doing 2 tournaments now, our own tournaments. 10U Jamboree and the JSHA Invitational. It's going to be at the Olympic Oval. When you walk into the Olympic Oval, that's where our summer program is. It's like the culture around it is amazing, right? So you see these Olympic athletes, the speed skaters from all over the world, not just the United States team, but they're all training together. They're committed. They're disciplined every day. So for me, it's like I want these kids to see that. I want them to see and understand that this isn't just about making it to NHL or D1. The odds of making it to D1 hockey or even D3 now are slim, right? And to make it to the NHL, you got to be in line and on time, right? It's just got to happen at the right time for you. And I consider myself fortunate and lucky to play in the NHL. But so for me, it's like this academy can be used to use hockey as a tool for life. And we have a model that we live by. It's a pyramid. I got it from Troy Ward. And, mind, body, skills, systems, games, right? Mind's the base of the pyramid. Without mind, you got nothing, right? We got to take care of our body. We got to hook mind into our body. And then we get the skills at that point, right? You can't really successfully develop skill in hockey or in life without mind and body, supporting it. And then, systems and games, we don't really hit those, unless we're competing at higher, older age groups that systems are appropriate for. But games, I always tell parents, games are the cherry on top. That's the fun part. And I always share with parents when we do these meetings with the academy, your model, this is our model, mind, body, skill, systems, games. This is our pyramid. But your model, if I flip my pyramid upside down, that's your model, right? They want games more than anything. And they want systems after that. And then they want to do skills development, but they forget about body and mind, how important that is for life, right? So that's what we're doing. We're trying to broaden the base, grow the game out here, use hockey as a tool to teach these kids valuable life lessons. And then I'd like it to get big enough where I can start supporting coaches too, right? So I can say, hey, buddy, you're working that job because you have to, right? You would prefer to be on the ice to make a living doing it that way. And I'll have an opportunity. I can give you a salary. right? You can still work that job if you want, but you can also leave that job and be a full-time skills coach for us, right? And really help him devote his time to nurturing and growing the game of hockey for these kids with us.
Nice. Yeah,
That's
sounds
really
like
cool,
you got you're a very good asset for that Utah area. You got a great long-term plan, and then you also have your podcast. That's the Jack Skille Show, right?
Yeah, and it's I haven't really updated it, but there's two seasons of it. So the first one's about youth development, and the second season's about transitioning as a pro. So we got some good. I think Mike Fisher was on for the transitioning. That's an interesting episode. Obviously Carrie Underwood being his wife. He brings up in the episode how he missed the locker room, and how it is in the locker room. It's the first guy that comes in that chirps first that wins the day, right? Because everybody else is chasing him, right? So like chirping's a part of it, especially when you're a bunch of alpha males, right? So he was saying how he was in the kitchen one day and he was chirping Carrie, right? And he had been doing it for some time, and she finally snapped on him and said, like, this isn't how I want to be treated. Like, you got to stop. So he put together a hunting crew and built himself a hunting locker room. So now they, on his property. So he's got his locker room back. So now he gets it out of his system. So then he doesn't have to go at his wife now and treat her like he's one of his teammates, or she's one of his teammates. So, yeah, really interesting. It's some good episodes. We got some really cool guests, but I lost touch with it during COVID. I was doing other things. So
it happens.
Well, cool, Jack. Gosh, this has been great. We really appreciate you taking the time to share some wisdom, and we're excited for your future. Man, you got a lot of cool things going, and again, congrats on a terrific career. And yeah, man, keep up the good work and sharing things with the hockey family. And we appreciate it. Thanks, Jack. Yeah,
thanks for having me, guys. It's been fun. Thanks for giving me the platform to share my story too. That's it's really kind of you guys, and I'm grateful for it.
Oh, we're happy to have you, my man. That's what it's all about. Just sharing some stories. So.
Through this podcast, the information provided by the Hockey Wealth Group is for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial, tax, or legal advice. You should consult a financial professional familiar with the specific circumstances of your unique financial situation before making any financial decisions. Nothing in this broadcast constitutes a solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Any mentioned rates of return are historical or hypothetical in nature and are not a guarantee of future returns. Johan Kroll, CFA, CFP, and Tyson Strachan, MBA, are investment advisor representatives of Oceanside Advisors DBA, the Hockey Wealth Group, an SEC-registered investment advisor.